Ciao ragazzi, welcome to Venice, the city of canals, gondolas, and today of contemporary art. I'm Jane Greaves, and I'm beyond thrilled to take you on an exclusive tour of Venezia Biennale, one of the most prestigious art exhibitions in the world. La Biennale di Venezia was founded in 1895, making it one of the oldest international art exhibitions. It's held every 2 years, with the exceptions of wars and pandemics, like it happened in 2021, and this is the 60th edition. This year, the title of the main exhibition is Stranieri Ovunque, Foreigners Everywhere, which was chosen by the new curator, Adriano Pedrosa, who hails from Brazil. I just met here Vladimir Aleksić, a Serbian actor who is visiting the Biennale. He's volunteered to explain what this title means.
And I think it's important that we address such an important topic in the moment, historical moment that we are living in. Who are the strangers? What is like straniero in Italian means to be queer, to be strange. What is strange now? Are we strange to each other? So a lot of artists think and develop this subject. So if you have chance, come to Venice to see Biennale. If not, follow the blog of your host and you will enjoy it as well.
As you can see, the art crowd is already on the grounds of Giardini as we are about to step into the central pavilion. The normally austere white facade of the central pavilion of Venice Biennale looks different this year. The colorful mural is painted by MAHKU collective from Brazil. I've caught up with two artists, Cássia Borges and Isaias Salles.
Isso, nós somos MAHKU, Movimento dos Artistas Runicuim. Moramos na Amazônia brasileira, no estado do Acre. Nós somos da aldeia Chicurumim, no Alto Rio Jordão, divisa com o Peru. Esse trabalho são 3 cantos. Nós trabalhamos com os cantos sagrados da ayahuasca, que é o nixipan, e que é a nossa bebida sagrada. Agora, o Iban foi quem criou o grupo MAHKU. Ele vai cantar o que a gente pintou.
Eu vou falar sobre dessa pintura, três pinturas que nós fez, 3 músicas, tá? Vou falar dessa pintura. Essa pintura é música. Haira,
The 700 square meter mural is based on the myth of the indigenous group Runicuim, also known as Kaxinawa. It tells the story of Capeva Puceni, which is bridge alligator that allowed ancient humans to cross from Asia to America through the Bering Strait. But the alligator submerged and thus separated different peoples and continents. The bright images of fish, crabs, sea turtles, birds, and people walking on top of the alligator are visions created during spiritual ceremonies with hallucinogenic drink ayahuasca. The MAHKU group, which was founded in 2013, aims to sell their artworks, to acquire land around their village, to protect it from deforestation, and to preserve their traditions.
É isso, essas pinturas.
As you enter the central pavilion, the first thing you see is a room installation by Turkish artist Yalter. Exile is a Hard Job is a series of portraits of migrant workers, an ongoing project she started in the mid-80s. On this large tent in the center, Topak Ev from 1973 is inspired by nomadic tents made by women in ancient Anatolia. Yalter is the recipient of the Golden Lion for Lifetime Achievement this year. Pedrosa's exhibition is divided into two sections, one of which is Nucleo Storico. This room is dedicated to abstraction from Latin America, Africa, the Middle East, and Asia. Among the featured artists is Ioni Saldana, whose work Bambus, with stripy acrylic paintings and bamboo sticks, is anchoring the room. It also features the artists from the Moroccan Casablanca school, Mohamed Melehi, Mohamed Hamidi, Mohamed Qassimi, and Mohamed Cheba, as well as Palestinian Samia Halabi, Japanese-Brazilian Tomi Otaki, Cuban Zilia Sanchez, and others. The other part of the Nucleo Storico is portraits. This double room presents figurative work through paintings, drawings, and sculpture, bringing together 112 artists from the global south, spanning the period from 1905 to 1990. Navigating this section can be a bit challenging in terms of style or chronology. Pedrosa got a fair share of criticism for his attempt to combine these disparate works into one exhibition. But I certainly applaud his effort to spotlight so many names that are not widely known in the West. Aside from Frida Kahlo, Diego Rivera, and Wilfredo Lam, I had never heard of any of these artists before. The portraits mainly depict non-white faces. The section continues upstairs on the mezzanine level. What's interesting to see here is how these artists, while influenced by European modernism, adapted and modified it based on their cultural background, mythology, and personal histories. The second section of Pedrosa's exhibition is Nucleo Contemporaneo. This is the Museum of the Old Colony exhibition by Pablo Delano. The Puerto Rican artist explores the colonial history of the island through the lens of complex relationship of Puerto Rico with the United States. In 1901, Puerto Rico became a U.S. territory, but it wasn't until 1917 that Puerto Ricans were granted U.S. citizenship without the right to vote. These archival photographs and texts often depicted lush tropical flora and fauna or captured the pathetic state of primitive natives. Official administration produced this imagery intended to show how the poor islanders would benefit from becoming U.S. citizens. The territory was controlled by America's military. In the description to this work, Delano states, while Puerto Ricans may possess U.S. citizenship, they live as foreigners in their own country. According to Pedrosa, the exhibition is a celebration of the foreign, the distant, the outsider, the queer, as well as the indigenous. We are going to start with the outsider artist from England, Madge Gill. She was a self-taught artist. Her work, Crucifixion of the Soul on Calico, spreads over 10 meters across the wall. It's paired in the room with sculpture and works on paper by contemporary Italian artist Giulia Andreani, who looks for inspiration into suffrage archives. This is a work by another outsider artist, Aloïse, from Switzerland, who spent most of her life in a psychiatric hospital. Joyce Joumaa, a young Lebanese-Canadian artist, delves into archives of Ellis Island to recreate mental tests for immigrants in this video work. Next, we have indigenous artists. Pedrosa says a second motif is family of artists, artists related by blood, many of them indigenous, such as Maya Cachiquel Andrés Curruchich and his granddaughter Rosa Elena from Guatemala. And here we have Abel Rodríguez and his son Aycoobo, or Wilson Rodriguez, from the Colombian Amazon region. Queer artists appear throughout the exhibition. Figurative, intimate paintings by Luis Fratino are particularly striking. A rising talent from Maryland, Fratino is already making waves in the art world. This room is devoted to multimedia artist from South Korea, Kang Seung Lee. Nedda Guidi was an Italian queer artist and a feminist. She worked with glazed ceramics. And there is a large black painting by Filipino artist Maria Taniguchi leaning against the wall here. Lately, I see lots of textile works. For instance, here we have two large-scale tapestries by Liz Collins, a New York-based queer feminist artist. This room features artists with connections to both Africa and Italy. Sculptor Victor Fotso is from Cameroon but currently works in Italy. The paintings on the walls are by Bertina Lopez, who was born in Mozambique to African and Portuguese parents and later made Rome her home base. Here's a funny poster by Danish collective Superflex. Foreigners, please don't leave us alone with the Danes. Italian visual artist Alessandra Ferrini presents her research project which explores complex relationship of Italy with Libya, which used to be an Italian colony.
Senate. No mention was made of
Muammar Gaddafi visited Rome in 2009 and signed the Treaty of Friendship with Berlusconi. I'm going to wrap it up here at the Central Pavilion, but let's take a peek into the Carlos Carpa's sculpture garden. There is a sculpture for trans women by Papis Papis. There are 30 national pavilions in Giardini, and I'll tour a few of them. I'll begin with the USA Pavilion, of course. This year, the artist representing the United States is Jeffrey Gibson. Joining him today are his family, friends, and members of both the Mississippi Band Choctaw Indians and of the Cherokee descent from Colorado and Oklahoma. And there is a live performance by Laura Ortman on top of the red pedestal sculpture set up in the front of the pavilion as part of this immersive presentation. Looks like it's about to rain, so I'm gonna head inside to see the exhibition. Gibson is a Native American queer artist, and his heritage and identity are reflected in this multidisciplinary exhibition titled "The Space in Which to Place Me." It's a kaleidoscope of vibrant, colorful geometric paintings, sculptures, texts, fusion of different textures and materials, including beads, threads, fringe, and a video. I'd love to spend more time here, but there is so much to see. As Jeffrey Gibson leaves with his husband, Norwegian artist Rune Olsen, I'll head to my next pavilion. Nearby, I've met Andrea Gardner, Deputy Director of the Toledo Museum of Art in Ohio, and asked her about her first impressions.
We just arrived here at the Biennale in the Giardini and went immediately over to the Egyptian pavilion to experience the film there. There's a giant crowd queued outside, and it's worth the wait. It was a really amazing film to kick off our first experience this year.
And so that's where we're heading. The Egypt pavilion is represented by Alexandria-based artist Wael Shaki. The exhibition is titled Drama 1882, and as you step inside, you are greeted with a series of vitrines with objects, sculptures, and relics that the artist created to take us back to 1882, the year of historic events in Egypt. The pavilion is set up almost like a theater. The centerpiece of this exhibition is a monumental sculpture mud village, a towering, raw, almost brutal piece that stands as a symbol of resistance to oppression. But the most ambitious work here that ties everything together is the operatic film Drama 1882. It's an 8-part cinematic experience, 45-minute long. It highlights the nationalist uprising of 1882 led by Colonel Ahmed Urabi against the British colonial rule. Unfortunately, I can't stay for its entire duration, because we are going to the Dutch pavilion, which features Congolese art collective from Lusanga, Cercle du Art de Travailleurs de Plantation Congolaise. I tried. The art circle of Congolese plantation workers. The exhibition is titled The International Celebration of Blasphemy and the Sacred. The clay sculptures presented here were recast in cocoa and palm oil in Amsterdam. They highlight the painful colonial history of forced labor, massacres of the Congolese people. The central figure is Belgian colonial officer Maximilian Ballard, who was killed by a local Penda chief for raping his wife, Kafushi. The Ballard's effigy is only shown on screen, while the actual piece, owned by a US museum, is currently on loan in Lusanga. By the way, Lusanga used to be known as Leverville by the name of the Lever brothers who founded Unilever. The exhibition is organized by artist Renzo Martins, the guy who was sitting outside of the pavilion, and curator Hikam Khalidi. When Western museums and art institutions buy the sculptures, the proceeds help plantation workers to buy back the ancestral lands and restore the sacred forest. And since Belgium was mentioned, let's see the Belgium pavilion, which is represented by the collective Petticoat government. As you enter, you'll see special edition Petty Lion newspapers in the front room, which tell the story of the folkloric giant's journey from Belgium, northern France, and the Basque Country in Spain to the Venice Lagoon. Visitors are invited to sit on the benches and immerse in this unusual art installation. The 7 giants are elevated above ground on a steel platform, so you're looking upwards at them. But something else catches my eye. It's the gentleman I noticed earlier walking in the front with a placard which reads, "Looking for a foreign wife." The organizers tell me he's not part of the exhibition, but in this space, myth and reality are blurred. Plus, petticoat government is about inclusivity, I suppose. Czechoslovakia Pavilion hosts 2 nations, Czech and Slovak Republic. Multimedia artist Ito Hudek represents Slovak Republic. His installation, titled Floating Arboretum, highlights the problems of deforestation, climate change, and carries a message of saving endangered trees, which he painted on the facade of the pavilion. And it's accompanied by live performances by an activist collective. Once inside, you enter into some sort of a labyrinth inside a giraffe's body. It's Eva Kotiatkova's project. The heart of a giraffe in captivity is 12 kilos lighter. She used the story of Lenka, the first giraffe of Czechoslovakia. It was captured in Kenya in 1954 and transported to the Prague Zoo, but only survived 2 years in captivity, after which its body was donated to the National Museum in Prague. Lenka is an example of Czechoslovakia's policy of acquiring animals from countries in the global south, and Kotiatkova examines it from the perspective of emotional attachment, a sense of belonging, and the meeting of politics, institutions, and the natural world. A Japan Pavilion presents Yuko Mori's Compose. The exhibition is a commentary on the environmental issues and sustainability. For her installations, she sourced local materials from antique furniture shops, flea markets, grocery stores around Venice. This is kinetic sculpture More More, Leaky, which is inspired by the improvised solution to leaky subways in Tokyo by utilizing everyday items like plastic bottles, buckets, umbrellas to mitigate crisis. And the second installation is called Decomposition, where electrodes are connected to rotting fruit to generate electricity and sound. It's meant to remind us of life cycle, death, and rebirth. This is Canada Pavilion. Its minimalistic presentation, Trinket, by Kopwani Kiwanga. She covered the entire pavilion with glass seed beads, known as conteria, made in Murano. It starts from the outside with dark blue beads hung from the top over the exterior wall. The installation is called Impiraresi. It's a Venetian dialect word which means threading the beads. The trinket continues inside, turning to orangish-yellow hues. This installation, called Material Cartography, explores history through aspects of trade, colonialism, and architecture. In the 16th century, beads served as currency and items of exchange. Roughly 7 million glass beads were used for this exhibition. The French Pavilion features a multi-sensory exhibition by French-Caribbean artist Julien Cosset. Drawing inspiration from both his childhood in Martinique and his birthplace in France, the exhibition evokes an imaginary sunken city. It's filled with suspended sculptures, marine netting, and plastic consumer waste, alongside video and audio elements. central theme serves as a unifying force, connecting diverse cultures and creating a sense of shared experience, bringing us foreigners together. The political landscape continues to influence this Biennale. Due to the ongoing war in Ukraine, Russia is not participating again. In its place, Bolivia has taken over the pavilion. The title is Looking to the Future Past, We Are Treading Forward, and presents works by Bolivian, Peruvian, and Brazilian indigenous artists. Meanwhile, the Israeli pavilion is closed, a decision made by the artist in response to the situation in the Middle East. It's time to leave Giardini for me and for hundreds and hundreds of people. It's a big line by the exit. On the way out of Giardini, I see some tents set up by indigenous artists from Mexico. A lot happening today. I'm taking a vaporetto on the Grand Canal, and the view is gorgeous. No rest for the weary. I'm not done yet. My next destination is Palazzo Contarini Polignac, which hosts one of the 30 collateral events, From Ukraine, Dare to Dream, sponsored by a Ukrainian oligarch, Viktor Pinchuk. A large crowd of Ukrainian expats, tourists, and artists has gathered here for the opening night performance. The exhibition is a collection of works by 22 artists, not only from Ukraine, but also from the US, UK, India, Turkey, Nigeria, and it looks into subjects of forced migration, displacements, and environmental disasters. Screams so loud. And in the adjacent space of the Palazzo, the Galleria Magazzino, Palestine hosts exhibition Southwest Bank, Landworks, Collective Action and Sound. The exhibition includes photographs, installations, archival images, and video projects dedicated to Palestinian heritage and culture. It is organized by Dar Jassir, an artist plus allies of Hebron. This is a view of the Grand Canal from the Palazzo at night. It's been a long day. Tomorrow we are going to Arsenale. See ya. I'm on my way to the Arsenale, the second venue of the Biennale. It used to be a shipyard, just a walking distance from the Giardini, or you can catch a vaporetto for one stop. The Biennale first used this space in 1980 for the architecture exhibition. The site is made up of several structures, and the main exhibition takes place in the Corderia, a former rope factory, and that's where we are entering. Yinka Shonibari's refugee astronaut greets visitors. Scorderia is a large space divided by 2 rows of columns, where you'll find younger artists. The first thing you see is this large oil and embroidery painting by Mexican queer artist Frida Toranzo Yeager. Just trying to find a good vantage point here. The project is called Rage as a Machine in Times of Senselessness. It's a lot to unpack here. She has references to the war in the Middle East, her interest in cars, and gender identity issues. This is a traditional Paraguayan Guarani pottery by Julia Andreani and her mother Juana Marta Rodas. In the back there is a work by another indigenous artist, Brad Graham from New Zealand. It's inspired by a pataka, a traditional Maori storehouse on wheels. It's covered in rubber tires symbolizing eels, which are a primary food source for the Maori people. In 1958, the New Zealand government designated the swamps, the eel's natural habitat, as wastelands, hence the title of the work. Disobedience Archive is an ongoing project organized by Italian curator Marco Scozzini. It's dedicated to activism and LGBTQ+ communities. It includes video works by 39 artists. This is a series of mosaics by Lebanese artist Omar Mismar. This Spiral of Fear sculpture by Angolan artist Kiluanji Kiahenda uses real railings from buildings in Luanda, which used to protect them, but now they seem unstable and offer no refuge. Palestinian Saudi artist Dana Avartani used silk dyed with spices and herbs for this large-scale installation, Come Let Me Heal Your Wounds, Let Me Mend Your Broken Bones. Site-specific installation Aguacero by Colombian artist Daniel Otero Torres draws attention to the ecological crisis due to illegal gold mining, which limits local communities' access to clean water. Buchra Khalili's The Mapping Journey project explores Mediterranean migration routes, collaborating with refugees from North Africa, the Middle East, and South Asia. Arsenale also has its Nucleo Storico section, which is dedicated to Italians who moved elsewhere, like Anna Maria Maiolino, who is another recipient of the Golden Lion for Lifetime Achievement this year. The other one is Neil Yalter, mentioned at the beginning. There are about 40 artists here, exhibited in Lina Bobarde's glass easel display system. We are back to Nucleo Contemporaneo. This is Ciauke Ciuchini, a Lebanese artist based in France. He mainly works with wood. These totemic-looking sculptures are made with African wood such as wenge, iroko, sipo, and oak. Antonio Jose Guzman and Iva Jankovic incorporate hand-dyed indigo textiles in this large-scale installation. The fabric was dyed in workshops in India using traditional technique. Queer artist Isaac Chongwei's video work, Falling Reversely. This sculpture, Preda Patria, is by Mexican queer artist Barbara Sanchez-Kane. 3 soldiers in lacy underwear impaled on a golden flagpole. couch. This mural, Diaspora, is created by Indian transgender art collective Aravani Art Project. And in the foreground there is a sculpture by another transgender artist, Papis Papis. These paintings are by indigenous Uitoto artists from northern Amazonia in Peru, Ramber Yahuarcani and his father Santiago Yahuarcani. And finally, Wang Shui's Lipid Muse. I'm going to visit a few national pavilions in Artillerie. Benin makes its debut here with a group show Everything Precious is Fragile. Romuald Hazume's dome, crafted from recycled gasoline containers, sits at the center. Chloe Quenon presents a silent orchestra of suspended musical instruments cast in glass. And on the back wall, Ishola Akpo's painting Traces of a Queen explores the concept of rematriation, honoring the woman as a central maternal figure in Yoruba culture. Senegal is another first-time participant from Africa. Albanian pavilion is next with Eva Lulashi's provocative presentation Love as a Glass of Water. It's inspired by the theory of the glass of water, which is ascribed to a famous Russian Bolshevik diplomat, Alexandra Kollontai, who supposedly treated sex as a simple need like having a glass of water. Next, Latvia showcases the works of Amanda Ziemele. The large, colorful geometric figures are inhabitants of the pavilion, like the characters of Flatland novella by Edwin Abbott. And the title comes from Shakespeare, "O day and night, but this is wondrous strange, and therefore as a stranger give it welcome." This is Malta. Matthew Attard drew the ships with his eyes using eye tracking technology. This mysterious pavilion is Lebanon's with Munira Al-Sol's A Dance with Her Myth presentation. She created these masks inspired by ancient Phoenician charms, which are placed in the middle of colorful paintings and the video installation. This is a new take on the story of Phoenician princess Europa's abduction by god Zeus, who took the shape of a white bull. The Philippine pavilion is represented by Mark Salvatos. His project, Waiting Just Behind the Curtain of This Age, explores the centrality and spiritual importance of Mount Banahao for the local community. It's a multi-sensory installation with bold sculptures, textile, video, and sound. Finally, outside there are two outdoor projects in Arsenale. Los Angeles artist Lauren Halsey's installation Keepers of the Crown, and in the Gaggiandre, the historic shipyards with docks, an installation which gave the exhibition its title, Foreigners Everywhere. Neon sign sculptures in multiple languages by Palermo-based collective Claire Fontaine. You can also find them throughout the exhibition, but here a cluster of them is suspended over the water. I even found the Russian one, Иностранцы везде. Grazie mille for joining me today. From Venezia, I'm Jane Greaves. Ciao.